Hello, my name's John Wheatcroft. I'm here today to demo some wonderful effect pedals by GG Effects. So the first one I'm going to look at is this black distortion pedal, which it's called a Snitch. It's an all black distortion pedal, and anyone who's good at crosswords can probably work out what the general vibe of this pedal is based on, although it really works in its own right. So initially, let's just, for a reference tone, I'll give you just the sound of the guitar into the amp with no pedals. So we're just going from this Martin Booth guitar into Dr. Z amp with no outboard effects other than a little bit of reverb from the amp, straight into an SM58 microphone. So this is the clean tone. That's the sound of the guitar, straight into the amplifier. And with the pedal, with everything at 12 o'clock, so all of the controls basically just dead center. This is the core sound of the pedal. Without. So we're looking at like a beefy, fat rock distortion tone. But from in my opinion, probably the best thing about this pedal is it's down to the use of some vintage diodes, which without wishing to get all techie and geeky, it means that in real terms it means it cleans up very well. So here it is with the guitar on full. I'm on the bridge position humbucker. This is a Seymour Duncan Jeff Beck, I believe, which is a kind of a mid to high, but not super high output humbucker. It's got a lot of mid-range, so it tends to drive things a little harder. So obviously if you're using a Strat or Telly or something with single coils, then you'll get a little bit less gain. But as we stand, this is kind of in the middle of the gain range. Now, as I turn the volume down on the guitar, it's still very, very usable. It doesn't get muddy or kind of, it doesn't thin out, or probably more importantly, it doesn't, we don't lose a lot of top end. So. So you could, in principle, leave the distortion at that level and control your rhythm and lead sound by turning the volume up on the guitar. So I'll do something like that now. I'm going to play kind of a finger and pick rhythm idea, and then I'm going to go to more of a lead-based idea. So you have to imagine the band around me. It fattens up and we get a considerable boost in the gain, but it's still very, very usable. So the rhythm tone again, lead tone, so I think as a core sound, that's something that's very, very usable. Obviously, where the volume control is and the gain level that you get is going to depend upon what guitar you play, the output level of your pickups, and also the quality of the volume control pots in your guitar make a difference. But generally speaking, this is a pedal that's going to clean up really nicely by using the volume control. The first sound was with all the controls set to 12 o'clock. So what I've done now is, this is closer to the way that I personally would use this pedal. I've turned the gain down a little, so the gain now is down to somewhere around 10 o'clock, and I've turned the volume up just a touch to compensate for the lack of gain. But what this does is, this is kind of like, for me, the best setting if you play in a really touch-sensitive way, meaning if you are a player that uses the volume control, that likes to use the volume control on the guitar wide open, then you can still achieve a lot of dynamic contrast by how you pick. So again, bridge pickup, the tone control on full, and the volume on full. So here's, if I play lightly, it's going to respond, but if I play hard, I've got all that kind of dynamic range. So if I'm playing blues, say, I've got these kind of different tonal colours available. So if I mute, it's going to respond really well. And you've probably noticed as well, part of the way I play is I use a lot of the fingers in conjunction with the pick. Now, if you go too heavy on the distortion, you end up just hearing notes. You don't really hear the actual tonal qualities of the notes themselves. And one of the reasons why you're going to adopt these different playing approaches is because you want to hear a different sound. If it all sounds the same, it defeats the purpose. You might as well just pick everything or play everything with one particular approach. So with the gain slightly lower on the pedal, and by playing in a dynamic way, you've got all these different tonal colours, so you can take the same idea. That's kind of an expressive way to play. And the style that I play, which is kind of somewhere between the blues and jazz idiom, you might not think a distortion pedal would be the thing to go for. You know, you might be tempted to think of an overdrive, but you can actually get a very thick, almost kind of Robin Ford, John Scofield-esque tone. In fact, you know, that's kind of the way that Scofield does it as well, is by using the distortion pedal a lot of the time, with the gain low, but then also altering the dynamics by the way that you pick. So I've got all these kind of like real different tonal colours available. That's very kind of very expressive. It feels kind of like the way that an amp would respond. You get that almost like a sort of a sag on certain notes, which is very musical, and I find it it helps when you're trying to get some emotion across in your playing. You're trying to get some dynamic delivery across in your playing. So. A point that springs to mind in connection with what we've just been discussing is when you keep the gain level low on the pedal, it also means that you can use the neck pickup without fear of it getting too muddy. You'll find with, just in general with gain overall, irrespective of whether it's coming from the amplifier or whether it's coming from any selection of stomp boxes, as the gain gets really high, there's kind of a point where, the point of no return really, where between mid-range gain and super high gain, it becomes very flabby. What you can do, and what we'll show you in a moment, is if you go beyond that point and you push the gain really, really high, it becomes almost like a flute type sound. And that's something that you'll find, like certain shred type guitar players using, is the neck pickup with an awful lot of gain. The middle ground is kind of a little bit of a sticky wicket because it can end up sounding a little bit muddy. It's too muddy for rhythm playing, and it's not smooth enough for lead playing. But when we're in the lower threshold of gain, the neck pickup is perfectly usable if you want to get a thicker tone, say for like a bluesy, as opposed to the bridge pickup, neck pickup, so the neck pickup, it's still got enough high-end content for that to be able to cut through when you're playing in a band situation. So that's very usable. So we're about to go on to high gain settings now. So we're just going to cut for a second. I'm going to reset the pedal. So the gain is now towards a 3/4, or as we look down, it's going to be around 3 o'clock. The volume level I'm going to bring down a little touch to compensate for the boosted gain.
Clip 4, 3, 2, 1.
The sound that we're looking at now has got a lot more gain. So we're approaching maximum. Contrary to popular belief with distortion pedals, it's not obligatory to play them on full. I used to think when I was kind of learning to play the guitar and just getting my sound together, that with overdrive pedals and distortions, they just had to be on full all the time. But with quality pedals, with decent pedals, you realise, the same with amplifiers and guitars, there's a lot of sounds to be found just by experimenting with the levels, and you know, often maximum. It's available to you. It depends upon the guitar that you use. But anyway, here we are with the gain almost approaching full, and it begins to take on the characteristics not dissimilar to a fuzz pedal in the fact that it's got really, really thick and really fat Now with this in mind, I'm going to use the bridge position humbucker, and it's as a humbucker even though they do split down, and it's very, very thick and fat sounding, so great for singing. Compression there, so if I play lighter it won't necessarily reflect in terms of output level. Change the tones. So lots of sustain, and we're not really that loud here in the studio. I'm kind of at the same volume level that I could talk at the same volume as the guitar, and there we're coaxing into feedback. The fringe benefit of this is it means all this kind of legato, hammer-on, pull-off stuff, all those kind of ideas get kind of easier. Obviously what we have to do, we have to manage extraneous noise. We have to make certain that open strings don't ring. But I'm just going to play some long sustained bends just to give you an indication of the kind of gain that you've got available to you here. So it's kind of a thick rock lead tone, which I guess you could use for soloing. You know, for chords, we're bordering on a fuzz type sound. So maybe we want to simplify the chords now and just play roots and fives. That kind of sound. So again, you know, fingerstyle techniques as well, still referring. All those kind of hammer-on, pull-off things become really easy to play. Yeah, so that's a really expressive sound. Again, this is going to depend upon other factors like what type of guitar you have. These are sort of medium-high output pickups, so you may find with a single coil guitar that the extra bottom end you get with this high gain is really something that you desire. You know, it's going to thicken the sound of your tone up. Also, the amplifier that you go into is going to influence that as well. This is quite a thick, full-sounding amplifier. It's got quite a lot of bottom end. I tend to like amplifiers that are quite bassy, so Vox amplifiers and matchless and those kind of style. If you play through something that's inherently brighter or got more sort of upper mids like a Marshall, then this bottom end, you know, could really thicken up your tone. So like a lot of these things, you know, you have to kind of balance the gain level with the type of guitar that you're playing and also the amplifier that it's going to go into. But as I say, you don't necessarily always have to have the gain on full. That's kind of like a lot of these things, like learning to play, like the way that you learn to play the guitar, in a way you have to kind of learn to play pedals too. You need to learn how to tune the pedals in to your style of playing, how aggressive your picking style is, how high output your guitar is, and so on. But by manipulating the tone controls of the pedal, hopefully you'll see that that there's a lot of sounds available here, and I'm sure that you could match the gain level to the way that you play to get the best out of it.